And it's day one and you walking in there on the first day, man, you in there, man. But you feel something. It's right in here, man. And it's screaming and it's yelling and it's saying, release me. And it's saying, I am the number one determinant of the success or failure of my students. Hey, y'all, when you get back, kick some butt, and I'll see you in the winner's circle celebrating your victory. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! You got this! You got this! You got this! Thank you, everybody.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 221 of the AP and New Principals Academy. Let me see who we got here checking in this morning. We got here, let's see, we got a lot of y'all on here. We got Sharon Wright in the building, Blandon, Pennsylvania. She said greetings to myself and the Queen. We got Mona Obamolak is in the building. Good morning to you. We got AP Patrick Lawrence in the building. Appreciate everything you said on that on your comment there, sir. We got John Few, Chester, South Carolina in the building. And by the way, AP Patrick Lawrence is out in Connecticut. We got Michael Benton in Cincinnati, Grace Castaneda in Kyle, Texas, Constance Sherrod in Pearl, Mississippi, Rodney Richardson in Hampton, Virginia. We got Tina Richardson in Kansas City. Which Kansas City you in? You in Kansas or you in Missouri? We got Arias Melvin in Brandon, Mississippi. We got where we at? Shantram, Dr. Shantram Hawkins. I think I said that right. Shantram Hawkins in Chicago. Let's see. We got Takesha High in Virginia, Marsha Poe, San Diego, Sheila Crutcher, Nashville, Tennessee. Lysandra Brackens is down in North Carolina. Elevating Education for MLs is in Atlanta. Lynette Wilson is in North Carolina. Dr. Rella Hicks is out there in Augusta, Georgia. Rod Laws is let me see that. Oh, it's Sherrod Laws, right. In Greenville, North Carolina. He said to me, Hotep, and I returned that to you, Hotep. Another way to say that is Hetepu. We got right. He also said Harambe. I got you. We got Portia Jigbo in D.C., Vanessa Zeskin in Connecticut, so Cassandra Washington in Chicago. Principal Otis Kitchen II. You see him home, Otis. I'm supposed to be out there, Black Educators Rock, but it didn't happen for me. The glitch kept me home. Mia Lange, Yules, is that what it is? Texas. Good to see you. We got Antoinique Charles in the building. Dot McKeever Jeter's in the building. Calumet City, Illinois. Where we at? We got my man Josh Tovar. That's my guy, man. He got some good footage of me this week. Oh my goodness. Thank you for that, sir. Appreciate you always. Rashad Davis out there in Las Vegas. Beige Handrews is Grand Rising. Willis Samson. I'm sorry, let me say that right. Toy Willis Sampson is in the building. Sandra Krause Ayers is in the building. Tanya Clark, Virginia. Where we at? Stay Fired Up is in the building. That's from Passaic. Dr. Edwin Garcia. Oh, okay, that's the YouTube switch. I see. I got you. Yolanda McKinney's in the building. Y'all, I'm gonna get started, man. I got it. Oh wait, I see Jacqueline Harriet, man. That's another one of my fam. She couldn't make it to the Black Educators Rock Conference either, man. That company, man, what they call what's it, crowd strike? Yeah, they sure did strike the crowd yesterday. Let me see. Are you okay? I see my wife. I'm gonna stop right there. The Queen, Kimberly Broughton Kafele, is in the building. Let me stop it right there, man, because we got a big one today. Y'all, hit that share button. I'm not even gonna tell y'all on Facebook and Twitter to keep hitting the share. I may say it. Well, I guess I say it today because this is the last We got 2 more weeks, today and next week, and then we all YouTube, man. So switch over, man. Switch over. Just go to YouTube right now. Get off of them Facebook, get off of that Twitter, and go over to YouTube, AP and New Principals Academy. I put the link right there on my page this morning, all my pages. Just go over there to the page and subscribe. Let me say it again: subscribe, and then hit that notification bell. And that way you'll know anytime I'm live beyond this, right? Because I may get that spirit, man, and go live on a Wednesday afternoon or something, right? So hit that. But let me say formally to everybody now, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 221 of the AP and New Principals Academy. Let me tell you something. I'm supposed to be in Houston right now, the Black Educators Rock Conference. I've been promoting that thing on this platform every Saturday, twice a Saturday, the beginning and the end, and sometime in the middle when the president comes on, Dr. Melissa Chester. But I've been promoting this thing heavy, and now here I am. Look where I'm at. I'm home, right? Couldn't make it. What they call it, crowd strike, tried to upgrade the system or something, or update the system and messed up the world. That shows you how vulnerable we are, right? One little company had a flaw in an update and messed up the world, man. Just the volume of people who lost money yesterday, right? So, but that it just speaks to the vulnerability that we're all subjected to. But I'm gonna tell you something, and I don't know if this operating system is gonna catch my word, but we're gonna give it a shot. Because despite that, I mean, my school leadership institute was also in Houston, and that Hurricane Beryl came, and we couldn't do that. I've been promoting it all year. Couldn't do that. Then now I can't be at the Black Educators Rock Conference. But guess what? I'm on fire! Woo! Yeah, baby. I'm still on top of my game, man. You know, if I was in Houston, then I would have done this from Houston. I wouldn't have brought that level, that volume of energy, though. They still sleep, baby. It's a different time zone. But in terms of the hotel, but I'll play the tape back and see if they caught my fire, or if the operating system couldn't handle the loud noise. Hey, y'all, switch over to YouTube once again. Let me do my rundown, and I got a little bit of a monologue here, and then I'm gonna bring up my superstar guests so we can have this conversation around the utilization of the AP. So everybody needs to hear this. Superintendent, you need to be on here. Commissioner of Education, you need to be on here. Secretary of Education, you need to be on here. Directors, superintendents, assistant superintendents, supervisors, principals, obviously, assistant principals, aspiring school leaders as well. I'd even go as far as to say teachers and parents, you need to be here. So let them know. Real quick, shout out to the NAESP, NASSP United Conference Sunday and Monday. I did 2 pre-conference sessions on last Sunday, and then on Monday, man, what a blessing. They gave me this big room of like 700 some odd seats. Man, it's just a breakout. I wasn't the keynote, right? It's just a breakout. That room was packed to capacity an hour before it started. I'm like, man, I took pictures for an hour, right? And then we got started and just had a great time. Shout out to everybody that's on right now that was in that room, and particularly the fam, the AP and New Principals Academy fam that were in that crowd. A lot of y'all, man. And we do that special message, man. I caught that Holy Ghost, man. And it happens sometimes, man, because I'm just so glad to see the fam that come that in person, as opposed to y'all on the other side of my camera. So to see the fam in person, that moved me in a special way. Shout out to ESU 10 in Kearney, North Carolina. That's a whole story too in terms of transportation. I just don't have time. I got to share some of that another time. But shout out to them, the new principals cohort. We had a great time, but there's a transportation story that goes along with that. But that's for another time. Shout out to Harmony Public School Leadership Summit. Oh man, had a great time in Texas with the folks, man. A lot of fam in that room, and a lot of fam in Harmony. Yeah, I don't even know Kearney, Nebraska, but it was fam in that room from the AP and New Principals Academy. Then Harmony Public School Leadership Summit, a whole lot of fam in there, and a lot of new folks, I'm sure. And then finally, Red Clay School District Leadership Summit in Wilmington, Delaware. Shout out to them. Shout out to Dr. Tanya Bond, who was instrumental in me being there. and Dr. Green, superintendent, but whole lot of fam in there, man. Whole lot of AP New Principal Academy fam. AP and New Principal Academy fam is worldwide, y'all. It's worldwide, right? So shout out to them. Welcome to the first timers. If this is in fact your first time, that means you missed 220 sessions. Just go to YouTube and scroll and watch all the videos, man. Binge watch. Check them all out. Beginning August 3rd, again, exclusively YouTube. I know that there's going to be some pains in making that transition as far as numbers, but we'll get through it, right? But I really want y'all to subscribe to the YouTube. We're at 22,100 subscribers, right? 22,100 subscribers. That is a huge number. I'm blessed by it, but I want to take that thing to. I mean, I'd like to see 100,000. To be quite frank with you, that means we got 100,000 administrators tuning in worldwide to get this information from these powerful guests that I bring on. So let somebody know we're here. Where we at? Real quick. Do me a favor. No, never mind. Don't worry. I was going to show you the books, but I don't, they're not in front of me, but we'll do that later on. Be sure to like and follow that AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page as well. That's the one for the written portion of the weekend, which I'll get back to in September. Right now, travel is too brutal. I got a flight to Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana. If you're in the building, I see you on Monday morning, right? Fort Wayne, Indiana. I got a quick monologue, y'all. Let me do that, and then I want to bring up my guest. Folks, my monologue is somewhat instructive today, as opposed to me giving you a message. Let me just give this to you. This was on my heart and on the plane the other day. I work with a lot of principals and assistant principals across the country, as you know. This is what I do, but I need to remind folks, because I'm not getting the teacher invites like I used to. I still work with teachers, right? Go to principalkafele.com and see all my offerings for teachers. But folks are locking me into this leadership role, and they're forgetting that I also work with teachers. So I'm not getting the teacher invites like I used to, because I'm getting all these leadership invites. I welcome them, but you do know that I still do professional learning with teachers, right? So anyway, I'm on the plane and I'm thinking about leaders, right? And I'm thinking about that work, and I got this list that I share with assistant principals. Anytime I have an assistant principal audience, I share this list as an opening. It's just 8 bullet points, and I want to share it here. I'm not putting it on the screen because, again, clients pay me for these PowerPoints, and I can't just come on Saturday and give the same information for free that they pay me thousands of dollars for, right? So understand that. So you can always rewind this. We're at 13 minutes, so you can always rewind and get you can get these over, and then you can write them down or take not screenshots. You can write them down, and then you'll have it. So now, let me go through these. Number one, how do I define? These are all self-reflective, first person. How do I define my assistant principalship, and how does my definition correlate with teacher development and student achievement? Let me say that again without the stutters. How do I define my assistant principalship, and how does my definition correlate with teacher development and student achievement? That's number one. I got no commentary with that. That's too much time. I just want you to process that. Number two, how does my definition of the assistant principalship correlate with how I am being utilized as an assistant principal, right? That's the second one. And by the way, this is a waste of time to say, but Twitter, they did something new, and I have to buy something in order for us to be on Twitter. So I know that's impacting us, but I'm not using Twitter anymore. I'm only using YouTube. But I'm looking here and I see that we're not on Twitter, because they're saying you got to upgrade and buy some package, right? Everybody wants a little change, man. I'm probably going to get off of Twitter soon. X, right? The only X I want to hear is Malcolm X. I don't need X for Twitter, right? But anyway, I digress. Number three is is my assistant principalship what I conceptualized it to be? That's the third one. Is my assistant principalship what I conceptualized it to be? Number four, do I understand that the core of the assistant principalship is to assist the principal, not lead the school? Right? Again, do I understand that the core of the assistant principalship is to assist the principal, not lead the school? Number 5, do I regularly engage in my own professional learning toward being an effective assistant principal, particularly instructionally? Number 6, how often do I get to collaborate, compare notes, and exchange ideas with other assistant principals? Number 7, why do I lead and how do I lead? And finally, number 8, does my assistant principalship benefit my school academically? Now, those of you who have been rocking with this platform for a long time, you know that that last one, does my assistant principalship benefit my school academically? That was the theme. It is the theme of this entire platform. But I have been remiss in just not saying it on a regular basis. But that's the theme of the platform. Does my assistant principalship benefit my school academically? Right. So that's my monologue, which is not a message. I just wanted to share those 8 bullet points because I want assistant principals out there. I want you thinking about your role in that regard. But principals, I want you thinking about how you're utilizing your assistant principal. That's what this session is all about. And these dynamite leaders that I have coming up in a few minutes, in less than a few minutes. That's what this is about. If that assistant principal is not being utilized correctly, hear me, somebody. If that assistant principal is not being utilized correctly, it could have adverse implications for that entire building. That entire building. Right? Think about that. I'm not going to get into that here, but perhaps we will within our discussion. I mean, you think about the totality of your staff, and then you got this one person, this assistant principal, and we are misusing, misutilizing, underutilizing this person, and that could have adverse implications for your entire school building. So you got to make sure you're using that person correctly, right? So we'll get to that. I got guests today, y'all. This ain't about me. I got a solo coming up, I think in September. I don't know, sometime. It's coming. But our topic: how are principals utilizing their APs and instructional coaches? So let me bring up my guests here who are all fam. Let me get my guests. I'm gonna change that background and we gonna be good. Good morning, folks.
Good morning.
Good to see you. You know, I forgot to tell 2 of you offline. I do this every week. I forget to say it offline, and I got to say it in person. I was calling y'all by your first name when we were offline, but I don't do that live, right? You work too hard for them doctorates for me to be sitting up here. Right? We and I want to make sure I pronounce that right, but let me go first. Janella, it's Dr. Opoku.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. And Dr. Jeffries is in the building along with Principal Hovette Dixon in the house. I want to read these 3, but let me just go a step further on what I just said, because there's always different guests on here. Martez, are you at Black Educators Rock, or you home like me? But let me say this real quick. There are people always on in the world out here on the other side of the camera, part of the fam in the morning, who maybe started working on the doctorate and then life got in the way. They started lifing, as we say, and the doctorate took a back seat. So when I bring on guests that got them titles DR period, right, I got to use that not only out of respect to the work that they put in, but hopefully as a source of encouragement for someone out there that put that dissertation to the side because it was so complex, so it just so involved that, man, I ain't got time for this thing. Well, everyone with a doctorate could have used the same excuse, but they forged ahead. So I'm using Dr. Jeffries and Dr. Opoku to say to you, get back to work. Now, I could preach that sermon to myself, but I made a decision. I don't even want the thing, right? I can't go to work on something I don't desire. See, that's a different conversation. I don't want it because of the work I do and wherever it is I've arrived to. I'm here and I got here without it, right? So a lot of people say, look, but why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? I don't want it. I'm living my dream, man. I'm in it. Imagine you got a dream. Somebody say, come on, man, you brought your guests up. Imagine you got a dream and then you living in the dream. I want like where my mirror at? Somebody hear me real quick before I read these bios. You got this dream, right? And then you like right in it, living in it, the freaking star of the dream. What you changing for? You in it. No said. So we got Dr. Janella Poku. Let me read this bio, man. She said, it says a New Jersey native. I'm gonna stop right there. See, when you from Jersey, you bleed this, man. You bleed this. Like this says STL St. Louis, but it could say Jersey, right? Specifically, it could say East Orange, New Jersey. Now I live in Jersey City, but I don't be wearing Jersey City on my sleeve. I wear East Orange, New Jersey on my sleeve, right? I bleed East Orange, New Jersey. So anyway, Dr. Opoku is an educator dedicated to ensuring all students receive a high quality, equitable, and experience-driven education. Throughout her tenure as a school principal, her goal remains to open students' eyes and hearts to positive opportunities within their communities and beyond. She is a graduate of St. Peter's University, holding a doctorate in K-12 educational leadership. Additionally, Dr. Opoku has earned bachelor and master degrees from the College of New Jersey, all in the areas of education, leadership, and psychology. As an educator, she's developed programs to increase access and opportunities for all students. She has established Beyond the Bell programs for those desiring academic or social options within the school building. Dr. Opoku has also expanded gifted and talented access for students of color, provided best practice training for teachers, formed open pipelines of communication for marginalized parent groups, and worked directly with community organizations to establish vital partnerships. She continues a family legacy of circulating service by supporting matriculating college students into the areas of career readiness and job procurement, participating in work with her local NAACP, leading community-based initiatives with Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and serving spiritually with her House of Worship First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens in Somerset, New Jersey. She also maintains membership with the additional education service and civic organizations. Dr. Opoku is the proud wife of Edward Opoku, who is a high-level soccer coach and player development specialist. She says her motto, "I am not creating good students, I am molding lives." Dr. Gina Jeffries is the new principal of Northside Community Middle School in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm acting like I hadn't read that already, Doc. I read that on the plane, and I'm acting surprised when you told me how. I'm tired. I'm sleep deprived. That's a whole nother story. Before this role, she served as the director of SIUE East St. Louis Charter School, where she was instrumental in achieving significant gains in academic achievement, high graduation, college placement rates, and higher teacher retention. I was blessed to be there 2 or 3 times. One of them, I can't even remember. Dr. Jeffries has also 30 years of K-12 educational experience in various roles such as teacher, assistant principal, principal director, and consultant mentor. Additionally, Dr. Jeffrey shares collegiate courses focusing on social justice practices for equity and inclusion aimed at preparing future teachers. She's a proud HBCU recipient from Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri, and a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. Her research has been centered on student-teacher relationships in the eyes of Black male students. Her greatest passion in life is fostering strong relationships. With her greatest joy is spending time with her family. And lastly, but not least, my man, this my partner right here, Hovette Dixon. Hovette Lee Dixon Jr. is currently, me and him go way back, y'all. This my man right here. I'm so glad to see you, my brother. That's why I keep saying that. Is currently serving as elementary school principal in Huntsville, Alabama. This is his 23rd year in education and school administration collectively. He in his time as principal, he has been recognized as the outstanding elementary administrator of the year per the Alabama PTA and Huntsville Council of PTAs 2 consecutive years. His school community has also been named a National School of Excellence by the National PTA in 2020 and 22. The Alabama Attorney General presented their elementary school a certificate of building a culture for school safety in 2019. His school community was one of 2 schools in Alabama to be recognized out of 365 schools nationally for community service efforts for their weekend grocery bags initiative to support scholars and families in need of 2022. Principal Dixon and his administrative team also prides themselves on moving the academic needle year after year by celebrating small groups, having increased 2-letter grades on their state report card in 5 years. His vision is to lead a school community where everyone feels valued and holds themselves and teammates accountable, unwavering and compassionately. His mission is to advocate for those young scholars and adults unprepared to advocate for themselves. Equity and respect are key components he lives by. Principal Dixon resides in Huntsville, Alabama, with his lovely wife for 23 years, their 2 adult daughters, high school-age son, and the family's American bully dog named Ace, same as my grandpup, right? This work and all that entails is his calling. He's an aspiring author who looks to share his journey with the world, near future, via a memoir he's currently penning. Hey, Hovette, let's do this right quick. Look in the camera. I ain't gonna say nothing, right? Let's just vibe right quick. I'm looking at you, man. Look at me. Just be quiet right quick. Let's vibe, man. Right there. All right. We know. We know. Right? We're gonna leave it right there, right? Right there. We ain't going nowhere with it. All right. People like, what they talking about? Yo, we just vibing, man. That's it. We're gonna leave it right there. Check the memoir when it comes out. All right, y'all. You know I want to talk, man. Let's go, y'all. Hit that share button. Let them know. Tweet somebody. I mean, no, we ain't. Text somebody. Tag them Facebook groups. Let them know. Go to YouTube. We 22,100 subscribers. Take me to 23,000 today. Let's go. Dr. Poku, let me ask you a question first. How many years you been principal?
I've been a principal going on, is it 12 or 13, maybe 13 years. I've been in education for almost 20, going on. Right. This will be my 20th year, so over half of that as a principal.
I got a 2-parter for you. Mm-hmm. I ask this question usually as a 1-parter to all my guests, but I want to do a 2-part today. As an educator, taking you, Dr. Janella Poku, and just isolating the education part. Who is Dr. Janella Poku?
Dr. Janella Poku is a school leader who's had an opportunity to really be involved in different areas of leadership. I started out as an elementary school teacher. So I started out working with the littles. I really thought that's where I wanted to be. I knew that's where I wanted to be. I knew that's what I loved, working with younger kids. And then I had an opportunity to become a vice principal in Plainfield, New Jersey, at the Hub at Hubbard. Yeah, so I was a VP at the Hub for a little while, and then my former district where I started my teaching career stole me back from Plainfield and brought me over to be an intermediate school principal, and so that's where I started my principalship. After that, I went to a middle school. After being in middle school for a while, I said, I don't know. Middle school is tricky. So I didn't know if that's where I wanted to be. Went to an elementary school, and as God would have it, where am I right now? Middle school. Wow. So I'm a leader who's had an opportunity to have various experiences, which has really molded me to have a better understanding of what students need from the bottom up, from the top down. So I found myself being a better listener over time. So I would describe myself as a good listener to what my staff needs, what my students need, what my parents need. Somebody who truly believes that I'm not just making a good student who can get good grades. That's great. That's what we want to do. We're educators. That's our job. But at the end of the day, I'm molding a life. I'm helping to create somebody who's going to go out into the world and impact somebody else. So what I do with that person is going to impact them, and it's going to impact someone else. It's going to be a continued domino effect. So I'm a leader who truly believes in the idea that what I do individually doesn't only impact me or my immediate community, but it's impacting somebody for generations to come. So what everything I do is really about the longevity. How is this going to impact this child? How is this going to impact their family? How is this going to impact their community from today way beyond tomorrow?
I love it. I love it. You know what you did. You you combined my two questions, because my other question, that part B, was going to be, who are you as principal, right? So you were able to capture it in both questions.
Yeah.
So excellent stuff. Let me go to Dr. Jeffries on the same question. Who are you as an educator? If you want to combine, we can do that as well. So the question would be, who are you, Dr. Jeffries, as an educator? But then who are you as a principal? So my question was going to be, is there a distinction, or is it pretty much one and the same? And if I could just give you the very brief answer for me, if one were to ask me who was I as an educator and who was I as a principal, there is in fact a distinction, right? For me. But I'm not saying that I believe that for everybody that's what it is. It's just that as I process it, there's the Principal Kafele and Educator Kafele. I can talk about as two different people almost. Jump on in here.
Sure. Well, good morning, everyone. I bring you greetings from St. Louis, Missouri. And as an educator, I am an atmosphere setter. I'm a climate and culture builder. I'm a joy giver. I'm an equity lens perspective creator. As a educator and as a principal, for me, there's not a difference. In my 30 years of doing this work, I had to start out with humble beginnings and started off as a reading and history teacher at a small one-room parochial school in the inner city, where I worked with families that some paid tuition instead of paying the house note, because that's how important it was for their scholars to receive a quality education. And so those humble beginnings geared me to fast forward and always have their lens that the family that's in the inner city is the same family in affluent communities that wants the best education for those scholars.
Yeah.
And so being able to be that atmosphere setter, I am purpose driven, that underneath my watch, your scholar's going to have that opportunity. It is my mission in life to equip educators and all team members, whether you're the social worker, the counselor, the nurse, the IC, the assistant principal, the superintendent. My goal is to ensure that we keep scholars at the forefront and remind them that we don't have an education, we don't have a school if we don't have scholars.
Yeah.
And so they deserve the best. And I'm that person. So for me, I'm that same person, Principal Kafele, in my family, in the classroom, and in the principal seat. Sometime as a joy giver, you're going to see me doing some Soul Train signature moves to remind everyone to utilize their cultural lens and let education be that fairness for all. So that's who I am.
I love it. That's some powerful words, and clearly, with the two of you, I could see when young people are in your presence and staff under your leadership, they're certainly in good hands. One of the things, before I go to you, Hovette, I was alerted by Jacqueline that there's a troll on Facebook. That's another reason, folks, that I'm getting off of Facebook, right? Because see, I can control that on YouTube. I can't control it on the platform on Facebook. I control it on my phone, but there's like 145 comments. I'm struggling to find the person there. But on YouTube, I have absolute control over trolls scammers, all that stuff. So will you please get off of that Facebook and go over to the YouTube channel and at AP and New Principals Academy, and that way I don't have to worry about people that have too much time on their hands coming on the thread and putting all sorts of stuff on the thread, right? Just come off of Facebook, please, and just go over to YouTube, AP and New Principals Academy, and then when they pop up, I can block them permanently, right? But I can't block them from here on Facebook, and Twitter we're not even on right now, but on Facebook. So please do that for me. All right, Hovette, same thing. As an educator, who is Hovette Lee Dixon Jr. and does that change at all when we add the word principal, or is it one and the same?
Well, one and the same to me, given my background. I've always said that I've been a redemption song when it comes to why I chose the field of education. It wasn't chosen, it was actually a calling for me. And so just given how I came up and how my siblings and I came up in single parent household, not to say or undermine the efforts that my father exerted once my mom and dad separated. I am what we are servicing today. I am the principal of a Title I school where there are some challenges that are met, and most of my years in education have been at Title I schools where there have been some socioeconomical challenges. And so that is a reflection of what I was growing up. And so I just feel it's just divine intervention that I was chosen to do this work. And so as I go into it with a very different lens. I was that student that was probably one of the smartest kids in my class, but because of so many challenges, socially and economically, it didn't reflect that, and there were certain stigmas that would attach to me because of that, and that's so common in what we deal with now. For those who may not have the cultural understanding or connections, these are things that were so common in my neighborhood and so common in my school environments. And so I was one of those who were always misunderstood before I was understood. And so coming into it as a principal and as just an educator, period, I had to go back and revisit all of those horrors that I faced and my siblings faced coming up in those environments. I stayed suspended probably more than I stayed in school. I spent the last 9 weeks of my high school experience being at the alternative school. Mom had to beg the school district to allow me to go through the graduation ceremony. So when those parents are coming in looking, for some type of assistance to redirect those students and scholars that we serve, I can easily serve as that example. And so I'm very transparent. I'm an open book when it comes to that. And so I wouldn't dare hold anybody accountable without convicting myself. So I utilize my experiences to help grow our school community as well, whether it be from an educator standpoint or whether it be from the principal standpoint. Now, just to expound upon this principal standpoint, my ultimate goal is to be a gatekeeper, ensure that nothing comes within that school environment that will taint, the school operations. And I'll give you an example for that. And I say no to outside assistance more than I say yes. And I say that because I always try to underline what is the purpose, what is the reason for you wanted to tap into our school community. A lot of times it's a certain time of the year that where you have those who are Greek affiliated knows that you have to get so many hours, or those students may come in from college and they need to get some community service hours. So they'll come in and say, hey, we're looking to partner with you and we want to be mentors to the students. But they'll act like it's a lifelong partnership, and it's only for a short-lived period of time. And so I say no to that, and I may be frowned upon, but my job is to gatekeep that, because we don't need a short fix. We don't need those individuals come in just to get a quick little 30 hours and be gone. This work, entails until we get those scholars across the finish line. And so I say no more than I say yes. So as a principal, I'm an ultimate gatekeeper when it comes to those adults, making sure I'm able to sense when they need that mental break, and ensuring that we've got resources in place to make sure that we support them in that.
I want to ask you a question before I go to the next question, Dr. Jeffries. Hovette, you were an alternative school student, but we know you. Those of us who know you today, who didn't know you back then, we know you as Principal Dixon, and we know you as a very effective principal at that. And as you said so eloquently, you probably could have been valedictorian or the smartest person in the building, right? I feel the same way about myself, as you know my story, but yet, came out of high school with the 1.5 to graduate college with summa cum laude, right? So here's my question to you. As you reflect back on it, there are factors there, obviously, but could one of those factors be that the school didn't know who you were, or didn't tap into that which was maybe dormant or hidden, undetected, didn't see it? I'm saying all that to say, and I'll put myself in this category of school, did we get it wrong as it related to your presence in the building?
Absolutely. I always look back, and I'll give you a prime example of why I said it was wrong. The whole time I was in high school, when I started in ninth grade, we had the standard diploma, we had the vocational tech diploma, and then we had the advanced academic diploma. And so you have three different tracks there. And immediately, the kids from the housing projects were always considered to either be on the standard diploma, or they were encouraged to be on the standard diploma or the vocational tech diploma. Never have ever been mentioned or counseled to be on the advanced academic track. And so I was encouraged to be on the vocational tech track, in which I was a brick mason. And of course, one of the best brick masons was in that time and era. Enjoyed the craft. But then the light bulb came on, and it's just my curiosity. I want to know what was the difference between. I asked one day between the vocational tech high school diploma versus the advanced academic high school diploma, and so I challenged that, wholeheartedly. And then I end up, with doubts from my counselor, I end up to that particular track. And I was a handful. It was just a handful of individuals that looked like me that were in those classes, and they moved together as a unit. And so I ended up graduating with an advanced academic diploma, and one of the few individuals that looked like me that graduated with it. And so when I look back at it, it's like, had I tapped into that sooner along my academic track, and had someone that gave me that support that I needed, and of course, no telling what I would now comfortable where I'm at, but no matter what, it's immeasurable what type of genius could have been discovered during that time.
So I asked that question. If I could holler at the fam real quick, and I'll put my mirror up for everybody out there in the AP and New Principals Academy fam. Is there a young principal, Hovette Dixon, in your school that is flying under the radar, undetected, with unlimited potential, and we thought that this is somebody that's not going to amount to anything? That cliche that so many people either use or think, right? Is there a young Hovette Dixon in your school that we have failed to tap into, and thereby realize the greatness that's in that youngster? I got that mirror up because with you as leader, that's got to be a part of what you do, right? As it relates to your relationship with teachers instructionally. So I just want to throw that out there. Dr. Jeffries, as I travel America throughout the course of the year, one of the things that jumps out at me is just the inconsistency and the confusion around the role of the assistant principal. I'm obsessed with that particular title. I really am. I think a lot of people know that. So my scenario here, you are conducting a seminar. You, Dr. Jeffries, are conducting a seminar, and your audience is assistant principals. Mm-hmm. That's all that's in the room. My question to you, what's high up on your agenda relative to your topics that you would say to these assistant principals relative to their effectiveness as leaders?
Sure. The first thing I'm going to tell these assistant principals is, I see you, I value, and I validate you. I value and I validate you. We are in partnership together, and you are here because there is a plan and a purpose for your assignment. And I'm going to start by telling these assistant principals what is not valuable for their assignment. Giving them work that nobody else wants to do is not valuable to an assistant principal. Not bringing them to the table and having a seat is not helping them, but it's hurting them. So I am going to let them know that as an assistant principal, again, you have a plan and a purpose. I'm going to make sure that their expectations are clear to them and that our work together is a team. Scholars are resilient. Team members are resilient. The minute they can tell that the principal and the assistant principal are not in agreement is the minute they are going to put that wedge and put that spirit of strife. And now our scholars are at risk of not achieving because the principal and the assistant principal are not on the same page. I am not in competition with my assistant principal, and my assistant principal is not in competition with me. Our assignment is the success of scholars, whether it's inner city, suburban, or urban. And when we are not on the same page, again, our entire climate and culture is at risk.
I love it. Love it. Got to be on the same page, right? And a lot of that speaks to the communication. But let me not add to that because I got the same question for the other two. So where am I at here? Dr. Poku, same question. You doing a seminar and you got APs in the audience, and what's on the top of your agenda of all the things that you want to discuss with them that you feel this is most important that I discuss?
I will want to impart in them that they were chosen for a reason. They're not just here. Anybody could have been chosen, honestly. Anybody could have been chosen for my job. But you're here for a particular reason, to fit a piece of this larger, broader puzzle, a piece of this larger, broader picture in order for us to ensure that our students are successful. You and I are in this together, as Dr. Jeffries has already shared, right? So we're working together. We're working together on the same goals. You're sitting in the same meetings that I'm sitting in, unless somebody needs to stay back and watch school, whatever. But we're sitting in the same meetings. You're part of the same discussions. I don't leave my VPs out. They're included in everything that I'm doing because I want them on the same page as me, and we're going in the same direction. If my VP is going in one direction and I'm going in another direction, we're not going to be able to reach a unified goal. So the biggest thing that I want my VP to know is that essentially you were chosen for a reason. And let's discuss what that reason is. Let's talk, let's sit down, let's have a plan about that. So as a VP, what do you feel like your strengths are in reference to what our school needs? What can you bring? What have you experienced, whether it be in the classroom or in another role as a school leader? How can you connect most effectively with our students? How can you connect most effectively with our teachers? You were chosen for a reason. You have value, you have purpose, and we're working together in everything that we do. I do that with my VPs. I do that with my instructional coaches, and they appreciate it. And so they come back and they're like, I appreciate the fact that you included me on the conversation. I appreciate that you asked me the question. I appreciate that you heard my idea. A lot of times we can get so caught up in what we want to do and what our goals are. We're not even open enough to hear the ideas of other people when they're standing sometimes on the outside and can see a bigger picture than what we're seeing, or they've already experienced something that we're looking to work on or to address. So again, they have value, they have purpose, their experiences have value, their experiences have purpose, and we're going to use those in order to help everybody be successful, which includes that VP. And success for that VP can mean different things. It can mean better relationships with the students and staff. It can mean increased academic achievement. It could be better social and emotional behavior with our children. But it can also mean that VP is learning enough to move into possibly a principal spot. And that's another thing that I think as principals we have to remember is that some VPs do want to remain where they are, but I'm also here to work with you in terms of what my vision is and what my goals are as a principal, but I'm also here to work with you and develop you so that you're able to reach whatever goals and purpose that you may have for yourselves. So again, really just making sure they know you're here for a reason, you're here for a purpose, and you have immense value within this organization.
Listening to every word you said, the one word that really encapsulated everything you said for me was the word inclusion. Like include me. I'm here for a reason. Include me. And when that AP is excluded from the process, like as we've been saying, the whole thing falls apart. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love it. I love it. Hovette, same question. You leading your seminar and you got all APs in the audience. What's at the top of your agenda?
Well, my first thing is to assure them that, again, as both have suggested, that this is a calling and you do have a place in this work. But don't allow this work to become your self-care is very important. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself mentally and physically when it comes to that. This is a field that calls for labor. It's one of those that is not going to seem fair at all times. You're not going to be liked by everybody. But I have a saying that I always say, keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing are our scholars. As long as you can keep that at the center of everything you're doing, then of course, whether you get the negativity or not, or the scrutiny or the judgment, you'll be able to deal with that. And that's going to come. Being in administration is a lonely island at times. And so, but you have to be willing to stay focused and know that you're doing this for the betterment of the growth of our scholars. And so I always say that, an individual who you and I have this in common, Principal Kafele, that we suffer heart attacks.
Yeah.
The heart attack as a young assistant principal had an aortic aneurysm. Less than 4% of the people in the nation has survived an aortic aneurysm. And so I went down in the hallway as a young assistant principal, arriving early in the morning and missing time with family at night, trying to prove myself to be worthy in that issue. I just took that vision to mean the wrong thing. And so having a good understanding and having a healthy balance of what it takes to really accomplish your goals is one thing. Then for two, I told them, don't get complacent. If you're on the team and you're just here to hide out as the AP, then you're on the wrong team, because my job, totally, it may not seem fair and it be a little uncomfortable at times, but my job is to make sure that you are transitioning to that higher level. So you're at AP, the next step would be principal. So at the moment that you start from day one as a partnership with me, it's going to be how can we get you to become a principal? And that's the overall focus. That may not be your goal, but that will be mine when it comes down to it, because I just don't allow to insert complacency.
Let me stay with you, Hovette. I want to go back to your assistant principal years. You mentioned you had the heart attack then, and I had mine as a speaker. But think back on your assistant principal years. Can you say, and you say this as politically correctly as you can, the three of you on this one, can you say that those years adequately prepared you for the principalship? And if not, where'd they get it wrong? You answer that as best you can politically, but what went wrong that it wasn't what it needed to be in order for you to become the principal that you were required to be?
That's easy. Having that dramatic situation in my life, it did call for self-reflection, because during that time I was in my third year and I kind of recuperated and came back before I was to come back, released by the doctor to come back to work. And I came back early against the doctor's will. And in that, it was my third year. And had I finished out that year, I would have obtained tenure as an AP. And I never forget the day that I walked in my office. We had a school cookout towards the end of the school year. And I was very vital in making sure that, food was grilled and things of that nature. And then I remember walking back into my office, and there was an envelope on my desk. And in that envelope was the one sentence of my non-renewal as an AP, having gone through what I've gone through. And so that sent me into a whirlwind of emotions. And I had to sit back and really reflect on what it was that I was doing wrong. And necessarily wasn't anything that I was doing wrong. I learned more of the politics of that position more than anything. When I look back on all my duties were attached to physicality instead of instruction. And so I was the guy that was, making sure all the textbooks, and back then textbook was a big thing. So, I'm loading the wagon around the building, just, late nights and, missing dinner and things of that nature, going on a full day without anything to eat. And so those are the things that I can recall that nothing I really did back then was attached to instruction. It was always the physical things that, I was supervising the bus drivers. I was, evaluating the custodians and cafeteria staff, and I was getting out the textbooks and making sure the PE equipment was inventoried and things of that nature. But nothing that I can look back on and say that prepared me for the instructional side of it.
Mm. So with that, I knew, obviously I knew about the that termination at the time, but hearing it live now, it just brought it back to me because I hadn't thought about it. So I won't go deep into that because it's personnel stuff, and I don't want to take off all the time on it. But I want to ask you this: were there any lessons for you in that assistant principalship toward making your assistant principals better assistant principals under your leadership?
Yeah. First of all, the first lesson was that I learned back in retrospect that it wasn't personal. That slip on that desk wasn't personal, and I can look back and say there was some real live relationships there prior to that. That was the politics side of it. And but when I think about dealing with the APs that I've come in contact under my leadership, I did take that. For all those things that I was not exposed to, I brought that back into my leadership as a principal, making sure that they were those that were in there to be able to lead faculty meetings, the ones that were able to lead data meetings, and the ones that were able to go in and do observation for teacher observations and student observations, and really take advantage of PD. If I was to go to any PD, I was always making sure that the administrative assistant was booking, flights and registrations for the both of us in that regard. So making sure that we were there and we did turnarounds upon return. And so those things were very vital, allowing them to become students in their own craft and really seeing a whole different world, because I got to do none of that when I was an AP. And that's not, and I don't want anybody in the audience to feel that it's been a pity party has been thrown. Those are just things that you go through. And I know I'm just one of many across the nation and outside this country that can tell you that they've gone through things similar when it comes to that. And that's just a part of the game that you have to kind of grow through and weather that storm. And I'm just glad that God walked with me in that in those storms.
I love it. I appreciate that. Dr. Jeffries, I want to go to you and ask you the same question. Was there anything about your assistant principalship that did not prepare you for leadership as a principal? If so, what was missing?
Absolutely. And first, I want to give honor and space to Principal Dixon and your powerful testimony. Thank you for your authenticity with sharing that. Yes, Principal Kafele, absolutely. And it was not exposing me to the political side of the leadership position, not exposing me to the systemic inequity that our inner city scholars experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I took the leadership position, especially as a female leader, it was very important to me to always have my assistant principals in the room and at the table. And I don't hide anything from them. I think it's important that they know the political agendas that are out there so that when they do become leaders and have their own buildings, they understand everybody that says that they're for you is not for you. And it's important that they understand that this position, it comes with power. It also comes with a blessing, but understanding that in every blessing, there is a lesson. And so I always want to ensure that my APs are equipped, they're empowered, and they're exposed. Equipped, empowered, and exposed. When I equip you, I am giving you the professional development that is going to set you up for success. I'm equipping you with understanding that scholar achievement is everyone's responsibility. When I empower you, I am practicing self-care for myself, modeling that family and personal affairs need to be equally balanced. But when I expose you, I am bringing you in the room so that you understand that there is a political aspect of stakeholders in every system that we work in. And to equip you means I'm going to expose you to it, not to hurt you, but to help you. Even if you're in the room, to watch me navigate and to share with me is very important.
I love it. You know, before I go to Dr. Opoku, I want to say this because I'm you know I see the thread of now the 2 platforms. At one point it was like 5. We've narrowed that, but anyway, I see the thread, and I see that there are people intrigued. We have pretty much a young audience, folks. We're assistant principals, new principals, aspiring principals, so we have a young audience. There are veterans that watch, but it's a young audience. So anyway, I'm noticing in the thread, and I'm intrigued by that whole idea of the politics of education. And I'm not going to get into that right here, but I do want to say this, that I've been wanting to do a session where we just devote time to the politics of education. But here's the challenge. I can't do that with practitioners, right? Because they have to go back to work on Monday. And then sometime I can't do it with consultants because they have to serve clients, right? So the problem with that topic is it's a necessary topic, but I'm struggling with finding people who are going to be brutally comfortable with having a conversation on this platform that's seen by a lot of people, thousands of people, that are going to be comfortable in that conversation. But there's a need. So I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Opoku, that you're going to have to learn how to navigate, right? I'm not going to get into it here, but I'm just going to say in a very vague way, you have to learn how to navigate the politics of education because the politics are real. Sometimes you may be in your position. I'm talking to somebody out here right now. You may be in your position because of the politics of education and you don't even know about it, right? So the politics can be very subtle or they can be very blatant. But trust and believe that I had to navigate it every day of my career, right? It's there, it's present. And you gotta know how to navigate through it or it'll swallow you up. The next thing you know, you're not even in there anymore, right? So I'll leave that right there. And when I could find those 2 or 3 people that just feel like, yo, I could put it out there, then we'll do it. Maybe some retired folks who don't have anything to lose anymore, right? So Dr. Opoku, the same thing. The assistant principalship, did it adequately prepare you for the principalship? And if not, where'd they get it wrong?
Just one quick thing before I answer that question. First, I'm really just loving this conversation right now because connecting with other leaders like this just really re-energizes you and it sparks things in you. So I just want to let people know if you're not doing this on a regular basis, please start because it will change your perspective on things. It will just change everything that you're doing as a school leader. So just continue to do that. And also, I just want to amplify what Brother Pavette said in reference to just taking care of yourself. I haven't had a heart attack or anything like that, but I had some significant health issues and going from one job to the next job to this job and making sure I was doing everything right and not wanting anybody to look at me as being inadequate, especially as a woman in this field, which is a totally different conversation for another day. I put some things on hold which put me in a very precarious situation down the line. So just remember to take care of yourselves, because if you're not there, somebody else will be, period. But going back to your question in reference to was I prepared? I do believe I was prepared to go into the principalship, as well prepared as I could be, right? So you're never going to be 100% in that seat. So you're not going to know of all of the experiences, the late nights, the stress, all of the things that a principal goes through when that entire school building is on their back. Because at the end of the day, that's whose back it's on. It's on that principal's back. But I do believe that my principal at the time, when I was a vice principal in Plainfield, Dr. Kwame Asante, he was my principal, and he involved me in a lot that was going on in the school. I had an opportunity I observed teachers regularly. I sat down in meetings with him in planning. I reviewed data. I held data meetings with our teachers. I of course did discipline and conduct with our students as well. And I communicated with families, but he also did all of those things as well. So as a principal, he was a model for me. And I think that was something that I've had an opportunity to take with me, and I'm continuing to refine in my time as a principal as well, being a model for my VP and really being in the game with them so that we're working together. So I do feel like I was prepared as much as I could possibly be prepared. Again, once you get in that seat as a principal, there are going to be things that you hear, experience, people that you talk to, whether it be your district leadership, superintendents, assistant soups, directors, etc., that you may not necessarily have had the opportunity to talk to and engage with as a vice principal. But I definitely believe that as principals, our job is to be a model and a cohort partner with our vice principal so that they're able to learn the ins and outs of the position, so that they're able to be successful and to carry out the vision that I have or that the principal may have for the school. So again, I do feel like I was adequately prepared to step in the role. Now, when I stepped into my first principalship, there were definitely some things I could have done differently, some mistakes that I made, but there were also some wonderful things that I did that I carried right from my vice principalship into my principalship. So again, you can weigh it on both sides. Those scales can be balanced at times, sometimes imbalanced. But again, I think that I had some wonderful opportunities that allowed me to walk into the principalship and not feel fully unprepared.
Let me ask you this part B. It goes right with everything you just said. Did the assistant principalship, therefore, did it enhance who you were as principal relative to how you prepared your AP? Were there any lessons from that experience that carried over?
So when I had my first AP, it was an interesting experience. So my first AP had been there in the district as a leader, I believe, longer than I was. So there were some experiences there that I needed to listen to and learn from my AP. So I think that experience was a little bit different. I think in terms of my current situation, I definitely think my experience as a AP, as a VP at that time, influence and impact how I interact with my current APs and with my AP that actually recently just left and went to the high school in my district to be a principal. I definitely think it made me want to include them more. It made me make sure I was listening to them, listening to their ideas, understanding that we are not in competition with one another. We're doing a job, and we all have our roles to play within those particular jobs. Sometimes the roles overlap because of the position. They should overlap. If they're not overlapping at all, there's a problem. There's a disconnect somewhere. But I do believe that my time as an AP influence how I engage with my current vice principals, and as well as my how I engage with supervisors and instructional leaders within the district.
I should have said to the three of you off camera, I want you to feel free to jump in and out on each other's responses, right? I don't want you to feel that it's isolated to each one of you separately. If someone says something you want to chime in, question, response, whatever, jump on in here. I want to stay with you, Dr. Poku, on this next one. Talk to us, in your estimation, the ideal, and this is probably a book, so it's a book, it's a full day workshop. So just give me the brief version. Talk to us about your ideal principal AP or principal APs, depending on how many in a building. The principal AP relationship. What's an ideal look for that dynamic?
That's a good question. I think if I could create the ideal situation, you know, it's almost like a marriage. It's almost like a marriage that you want to work. Let me add that, right? Not a marriage where you're not willing to put in the work to make sure the situation flows well. But it's almost like a marriage where you get up, you come in, getting up in the morning like you would with your husband and wife. You talk to each other, you greet each other, you ask each other what's going on in your life, how are things going with your day, building that relationship with that individual, strengthening that bond so that you can go out and do the work that you need to do in the world. And that world would be our school if you were to make a comparison. So in terms of the relationship that I would have with my VP, coming in the morning, having those conversations with one another, talking to each other about how their lives are, how their families are, and then being comfortable enough to share about what's going well and what may not necessarily be going well, is sitting down and having a conversation about how we can improve those things together. What ideas do they have? What have you noticed in the building that I may not have seen because maybe I haven't been available as much as I would like to have been, as you are? You know, my APs, I try to have them out and about as much as possible. Sometimes they get caught up on different things, but I do try to have them out and about as much as possible. So I want them to be able to come to me and tell me what they're seeing, tell me what they're hearing. Sometimes teachers like to talk to them. You can use, I don't want to make the analogy like teachers or children, but I'm going to make it right now just for the point of this conversation. But you know, sometimes kids go to mom or sometimes they go to dad, and then mom or dad has to tell mom or dad what that child said, right? So I want the vice principal to be able to also be a sounding board for my teachers if necessary. And then feel free to come to me and talk to me about what's happening or what they're feeling so that we can, again, work collaboratively in order to, you know, fix issues or problems. They may want to address it from one way, from one direction. I may want to address it from another. So we have to, again, see what works best and then attack it together. But really just like a partnership, again, a marriage that you want to work, a marriage that you want to work. That's how I would definitely view my relationship with my VP.
I think that's an excellent word, because that's what it's got to be in the truest sense of what we mean by marriage, right? And I guess I'm going old school traditional, because in contemporary times that might mean something very different from how I'm living, right? So but yeah, in the truest sense, that's what it is. It's a partnership. It's not a you and a me, but it's us moving this building together, right? So I'm with you. Same question to you, my brother, Hovette.
I smiled when she initially started talking, because she said that magical word, and as you asked the question, immediately that's what popped into my mind. I was kind of brainstorming some of the questions you would pose this morning as I got up, and I narrowed that down to where it is just like a marriage. And having thinking about my most recent AP principal relationship, that my former AP retired here back in May, and the blessing for that relationship was that she was a retired principal before in a neighboring state. So when I inherited her as my AP, she had the experience of being a principal. So that was like a blessing to me. So when we would, everything that Doc spoke on, we would always sit down in the morning time coming in. We would first find out how we're doing physically and mentally, was always of importance. And as time went on, and as we spent 5 years together, and as time went on, I could just almost see from where it started from the beginning to this past May, and little things, like you say, as a marriage, little things would occur. Like I would have days where I'd be in my office, and all of a sudden I would realize that nobody has knocked on my door, nobody has disturbed me, and And then when I look back in retrospect and after things that I go about today and realize that she's going around in person told individuals that, hey, this is a busy day for him today. Make sure that we're taking care of things within and we're managing to a degree to where we don't have to disturb him. And even when it comes to like health things, you know, I come in the office and there's some yogurt on the desk, or there's a fruit bar, or I'll look in the refrigerator and there's water with the pH balance and things of that nature, you know, to where she's making sure that things are intact. And so, and vice versa, we just knew each other in that sense. And so it opened up a gate to where we could kind of just talk with each other and be comfortable with one another, express how we feel. And some days it was tense, you know, and but not one time it was tense to where we wasn't able to come back and say, hey, let's revisit this and say, how can we still got work to do. Okay, that was a little, and we'll laugh about it. That was a little tense earlier, but hey, this is what we really need to do. And so I just don't remember many bad days when it comes to that relationship. Now, in that current AP now who will be starting with us here in August in a couple of weeks is on our team as well. So she's been promoted. She's former curriculum specialist, and she's going to be our AP. And so that speaks to the growth of that as well. So a lot of things, that dynamic will continue with me already knowing that instructional leader. And so just being able to establish that, you know, marrying the two roles and designating roles and making sure that we understand what roles we play and what's important as we arrive to the school building every day. It's days that when I get there already, we're already thinking in the morning time, you know, let's make our rounds to see which teachers may need a sub, what subs did not show up. We knew that they're not going to be there based upon them alerting us as teachers, but then let's make sure we do our checks and balances and go around the building. So a lot of times when I get there, AP said, hey, look, I've already done the rounds, done the rounds and everybody's intact, you know, so we don't need to call any subs. And so we just knew to do that. And if I got there before she did, it was the same thing. Like, hey, I've already checked this, and you know, I just made a phone call for this sub to come. We just knew each other in that essence, and so just having an understanding, and it doesn't come overnight, you know. But if you're really, really genuine and authentic in your way of dealing, then of course it makes for a better school operation.
Love it. Before I go to Gina, I want to put something on the screen here. I said Gina. Before I go to Dr. Jeffries, I want to put something on the screen here. It says, how do you grow, KB? How do you grow as an AP when the principal is inconsistent and does not stand on decisions? This is actually woven into this session today, KB. So stay with us, because I got you, right? So I hope you don't have to leave, but if you do, then come back and watch the video on YouTube anytime, and we got you. We got you. Same question, Dr. Jeffries. That AP. Matter of fact, we can put it right here with you, because we're talking about the relationship. So that principal AP relationship. What is that ideal relationship? And if you could, and you all could tap back in, talk about what KB is frustrated by.
Principal Kafele, are you asking me to?
Yeah, I want you to take the same question. Forget what's on the screen for the moment. Just the question was, what is your, talk to us about your ideal principal assistant principal relationship. That's it's not a question. I just want you to talk about it. But sure. Within that, if you could address this concern, because it ties right into it. How do you grow as an AP when the principal is inconsistent and does not stand on decisions?
Sure. The first thing that I'd like to say is professional respect. Personal respect, professional respect, personal respect, and professional proximity. And I would probably call those the 3 P's: personal, professional, and proximity, and the respect and the trust that is intertwined between the 3 of them. So with proximity, I want my APs close to me. How can 2 walk together unless they agree? That professional respect and trust means if we're collaborating and we have that trust set up, if I'm being inconsistent, I need for you to trust me professionally and say, hey, Dr. Jeffries, I know you told the kids that they could have a dress down, but according to our PBIS matrix, they didn't meet that dress down standard. And so when we go out here with the teachers meet PLC, we need to be consistent. So we can get behind those closed doors and hold each other accountable with checks and balances.
Yeah.
But when we go out with the team and PLCs and parents and stakeholders and bullies, folks with political agendas, we have to be in agreement. I do not want a yes person to be my assistant principal. That's not what I'm looking for. They have enough of Dr. Gina Jeffries in one building in one day, because part of my training was Principal Kafele and bringing that fire. So when I get to that school at 6:45, let's go. That fire's coming because these scholars need us. I don't know who has slept in the car. I don't know who my homeless scholars are. I don't know who walked through what neighborhoods to get to my building. But when they get there, they need that educational safety to know that underneath my leadership and my AP, we got you. And I'm modeling that for the team so they understand that somebody didn't go to the baseball game the night before. Somebody slept in a car. That's our reality of inner city education. So if there's inconsistencies, you need to have that trust built up to be able to tell your principal, we need to talk. And while I'm saying that, I am 15 days in a new assignment with a fresh perspective and a fresh plan and purpose in St. Louis. And I want to shout out my AP that's on, Mr. Dole Bailey, who invited me to come in to show me systemically climate and culture before I even started. And then I want to shout out Dr. Lisa Cummings, who was my AP in East St. Louis, who we had those checks and balances. I don't want an AP that is another Dr. Gina Jeffries. There's only one.
Wow.
So I hope that answers that question, Principal Kafele.
Yeah, no, it does. Let me find her again. KB, I see you. Yeah. I'll just add my 2 cents to what the three of them have already added. You went Hovet, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let me just add my 2 cents, and it's only going to be 2 cents, y'all, because this is y'all's platform this morning. But there's a book that when I'm on the road speaking or when I'm doing these Zoom presentations, I put it on the screen, and I'm going to put it up here. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Thank God my mother told me to study marketing before I became an educator. Because a whole lot of folks in this marketing world, this selling world, this motivation world, I may not have been exposed to. But because I studied marketing, I learned the principles of marketing and promotion and advertising, and I infused it into my work as a teacher. I infused it into my work as a leader, and quite naturally as an entrepreneur is all up in this work, right? So I'm saying that to say this. People skills and communication, which is going to be my next question. As an AP that's in a situation like you, and I don't want to keep saying your name, even though that might not be your real name, because I just don't want any adverse implications for you even putting that on here. But when we're in these situations and we're in a bad situation, the AP principal relationship, and here you want to grow, but you're with inconsistency with the principal or a principal who sees you as someone who rolls up the sleeves and does everything that no one else wants to do, and you supervising cafeterias and doing lunch duty and discipline and bus duty and all those kinds of things. You have to know how to approach people. See, you are like Dr. Opoku said, you're there for a reason. And it can't be to do all that roll up the sleeve work. There's got to be some intellectual work in there too. But if you're with somebody that doesn't see you that way, then at the end of the day, you can't wait for them to change. You have to position yourself to change them if you're not just going to look for a job somewhere else, right? But in terms of being able to change them, you got to have it's the people skills. You got to know how to communicate with different people. And that word influence has to be a part of your essence, who you are. You've got to be influential. You've got to be able to influence people's thinking, people's way of thinking, bringing people around to your way of thinking. That's a skill that I think, and let me stop because I feel like I'm getting ready to lecture. That's a skill that I think a lot of us lack, right? We want to be demanding, we want to be controlling, but are you influential? Are you persuasive in bringing people around to a different kind of thinking, or bringing people around to the way you think, the way you see life, the way you see that this school could be better? It doesn't mean that you're right, but it does mean you got to be able to develop so that you can ultimately leverage that influence that you got to establish within yourself. So that's going to be my 2 cents. I've used that all my life, but I want to be transparent before I stop. There have been times when I just made a very conscious decision that I don't want to be influential. I want to go directly at you. So, is that the right way? No, but sometimes that's how I want to deal with somebody, right? But ultimately, you got to have those people skills to be able to bring about the change that you want to bring. Enough said, unless anybody wanted to weigh in on it.
The only thing that that I would add to that is it really is about how you bring things to people. I can be a skeptic myself sometimes when people come to me with different things. But if they come to me in a certain way, I'm more open to hearing it, especially if they come to me with details, plans, specific information. It doesn't necessarily have to be deep data. But if you can come to me with, anecdotal evidence of why you think a certain way, and what do you think about this? How can we maybe try this? Or I tried this in this place and it worked. Would you be okay if I did X, Y, and Z? So, it really is about the way. I definitely agree with Principal Kafele, the way you come about it, the way you set it up, and the research you've done behind maybe your ideas prior to bringing it to another person. So that's just my 2 cents.
I love it. I love it. And you all gave more than 2 cents. That's gold. But look what Preston AK said. Y'all gonna keep me on this one topic, man. Listen, Preston said, where are the checks and balances for these situations? This is year 3 for me with inconsistent leaders, right? Preston, I hope you heard everything that was just said. Because I think we gave you a lot of content there. But I'm gonna put this on the screen again. Go to Amazon and get this. It's not a book about winning friends. It's a book about how you develop your ability to bring people around to your way of thinking, right? It was written in 1936, and it's one of the most read books in the history of books in America, right? I got this a long time ago, and it said over 15 million sold. I got this in I think like 84 or something, right? And they said 15 million sold at that time. Well, it's 20 years later now. There's a whole lot of these circulating. So get yourself a copy. Okay.
I would like to insert something in that, Principal Kafele, because yes, I've heard 2 statements in regards to something that I had to learn in regards to working with someone that you personally feel as an AP, that you personally feel is not quote unquote effective or consistent, or whatever the terminology may be to define your dislike for that style of leadership. I've always said to people that I've learned the best leadership to those who are ineffective. There's a 2-sided coin to leadership. Those who are effective with it, those who are ineffective. And I've learned from both sides of that coin. Now, how you go about it, you have to always keep in mind that principle is the principle. And at the end of the day, for anything that is not done precisely or aligned with what the district expectations are, is going to fall back on that principle. Now, as the AP, who is that support system, your job is to take notes in that regard. Be careful in how you vocalize that. But take notes, take thorough notes, and then create your system of exit plan or an exit plan. And that's typically how I handle it. I had some pretty good principles that I fell into leadership under, but for that one or two that I did not have, what I did was created, man, I jotted that down as well. Like I know what not to do once I transitioned into that principalship role. And so I had a notebook for what not to do and a notebook for what I'm going to even enhance upon when it comes to that. And so they just have to learn how to learn from that too, and then develop an exit plan to ensure that they can kind of exit the stage when it comes to that.
Love it. I got to jump in here and say what Dr. Poku you talked about. You said this is a great session. It really is. If I might say so myself, right? My frustration is I'm in this transition of platforms. I don't have the same numbers that I normally would have because whatever this is that Twitter did, it's not even on Twitter. So I don't know where them folks are, but I could see it's impacted the numbers. But the good thing is people watch the video more than they watch the live, so they'll catch up because this is gold this morning. This is pure gold this morning. So let me go.
Adding to that, I'm sorry, Principal Kafele. If you are having that type of issue, I like what was said about the exit plan. Don't get stuck. Because what happens sometimes is that you stay somewhere for so long dealing with things that you're not happy with or you're not pleased with. And then you've stayed there so long that it's going to be very difficult for you to get out for a myriad of reasons, whether it be you being there and being able to get a job somewhere else. Maybe you've reached a salary plateau that you may not be able to get in another school or district, but try not to get stuck. If you're that dissatisfied and that unhappy and you don't see a pathway for growth and change, then just don't get stuck, because I've seen that, and it has created educators who are over the profession and they're leaving maybe sooner or earlier than they really should, or they're ineffective at this point.
Yeah, good, great advice. That's why I say it's gold. Yeah, somebody just gave you a bomb, right? Great
Principal
stuff.
Kafele, could I add to that too?
Absolutely.
I just want to shout out my colleagues that are on this platform with me because they are dropping some jewels.
Yeah.
And mentioning that exit plan is very important, because I want to remind APs, you don't want the platform until you're ready. So you don't want to stay too long. You don't want to operate out of a lens of toxicity, because it harms the entire climate and culture, but it also harms you as a professional. But in that same breath, you want some of the tough lessons before you get the leadership position. Because if you get the leadership position without having some of the tests that you will go through, you'll get the position and not be able to stand the fire. This seat comes with fire.
Woo!
And you don't want it if you're not willing to get your hands burned and take the blessing and the lesson from the situation. It'll burn you if you're not ready. It is okay to wait until it's your time and it's your turn. It might be your turn, but may not be your time. So you want to wait until it is your time and your turn. Get the lessons and the blessings. So when you get there, the minute the fire happens, you don't run. You stay in position, because you understand that the position that I just came from, I was elevated to not run away from fire, but deal with the fires as they come.
You said some stuff right there, Doc. And you said you said you might get your hands burned. I'm gonna say what you really were trying to say, but you ain't know if you could say it on here. I won't use the exact word, but you might get your butt burn. See, you know, but it's something else I picked up on. See, like you said, until the last time you said until it's your time, but the first time you said your time. See, and your time got a little bit more sting to it, right? That's the one I want to go with, until it's your time. See, so we got. I hope y'all hearing this, man. This session went beyond my plan today. Yeah, see, this good stuff. So and I, I hope y'all got time, because I ain't even halfway through yet, right? So I won't keep y'all all day though. But let's go. Where we at? I ain't even paying attention to my notes. So here we go. I'm gonna stay with you, Dr. Jeffries. Let's look at communication, because this speaks right to it, between principal and assistant principal. We're talking about how the principal utilizes the AP. I got a two-parter for you. From the vantage point, Dr. Jeffries, of the principal, how does one avoid a breakdown in communication between the principal and the AP? Now, I'm only going from the vantage point of the principal right now, because you'll see what's coming later.
Okay. I think you are intentional on over communicating. So in order to stay away from the breakdown, you have to be intentional. One of the things that my new AP in St. Louis, and the new assignment that I'm in, he was intentional on us putting on our calendars a time scheduled every week. Now we speak daily, every single day, but instead of us having a 10-minute hallway conversation or a 15-minute lunchroom conversation, making sure that it is on our calendars. And if we need it, it's there. If we don't, we can add it back into our pausing for peace on purpose. But being intentional, it is better to over communicate than to under communicate. I've often called my AP in if there's been any major crises that has occurred, so that when we go out together, that we are on the same page of the information that's being communicated. It's easier to communicate when things are going very well. I've heard a national renowned researcher say the tougher the crisis, the less words that need to be said. In that same breath, understanding that as you do this assignment day to day, there's going to be victories and joys to communicate. There's going to be daily conversations to communicate, but there's going to be those crises that you have to communicate. And if I could just share this, because 2 years ago, unexpectedly, our school's administrative assistant unexpectedly passed the evening before. And we didn't get that word until the next morning. And it hit us. And we were scheduled to go into a morning Monday assembly, which we meet with our scholars every Monday. And it broke me down to where I was literally on the floor processing that trauma. And it was my AP kind of holding me up and saying, okay, let's get this out, but we need to then communicate this and go through protocol for communicating a crisis as a school community. But just being able to have that AP, again, when things are going well, it's glory, but you got to be able to trust that person, because the hard stuff is coming. So I would rather us have some seeds already in the ground on over communicating everything than under communicating. So when the crisis comes, we don't know each other's educational language enough to know when we need one another. So over communicate.
Over communicate. I love it. Let me go to Dr. Opoku. Same question. How, from the vantage point of the principal only, how do we avoid a breakdown in communication between the two? Unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Definitely agree with Dr. Jeffrey said in reference to just scheduled communication, making time, setting time aside to have conversations. I will be fully transparent in saying that at the beginning of the year, that's something I'm really I'm good at. And as you move towards the busier times in the year, it becomes a little bit more challenging. So those conversations in the hall, those conversations in the office, those conversations in the cafeteria, those conversations where after we've dealt with an issue and then we just randomly start talking about something else, are vital and important, but definitely scheduled communication is big. Also, taking time to go to my VP as opposed to my VP feeling like they always have to come to me. I know where their office is. You know what I mean? I know where they are in the hallway. I know where they, I know where they post during different transitions throughout the school day. I can go to them.
Yeah.
How's everything going? What did you see? What did you hear? So again, it's not one-sided. It's a collaboration. We're working together. So again, going to my VP and stopping by where they are, so they don't always feel like it's a one-sided situation where they're coming to me. And then just keeping up on whatever like our documented communications are and following up on those as well. So, we are big on keeping everything noted, written down, stored somewhere, shared, but making sure we're reviewing those things and talking about them. So again, just schedule communication, going to my VP, going to them. Just because I'm the leader doesn't necessarily mean you have to acquiesce to me on a consistent basis or all the time. This is a partnership. So what am I doing? I'm going to you. In this marriage, in my marriage at home, I go to my husband, he comes to me. In my marriage at work, we're going to have to do the same thing, right? So definitely want to make sure that happens with the VP. And then if we're inspecting and we're having conversations with one another on a regular basis, that communication breakdown won't happen.
I love it. Hovette, same question.
All right. I think the excellent feedback from both of the teammates here. But what we do on our end is that we have a system of communication where in my office there's a big makeshift calendar that we made out of a whiteboard, and we actually take painter's tape and put it up, and we create a calendar. And what we try to do in the beginning of every month, we kind of take a picture of the things that we watch that calendar go from nothing on it until it's jam-packed. And then at the end, we always take pictures of it to see how much we've done in retrospect. But to get ahead of it, we always try to talk to each other beforehand to plan, to see what roles we're going to take, what dates we have, and what are going to be our roles in those particular things that are upcoming. So just having that, knowing that, okay, once I get something from central office, we know that the step is going to be me next, pushing it out to the admin team. And then that job is to make sure that you're dissecting it just as you would have received it as a principal. So I try to make sure that every individual on the admin team, especially the VP, looks at it from a lens of a principal. So when I'm receiving that AP is receiving just as much as I'm receiving it. So if I get it in the wee hours of the night, you're going to get it in the wee hours of the night. I'm going to push it off. So two sets of eyes is better than one set of eyes. So you dissect it on your end, and I'll dissect it on my end. And when we get to the schoolhouse and get to the round table, we can talk about how we're going to better attack it. And that communication piece is just basically knowing what personality traits you're dealing with. I'm a technologically savvy guy. I'm one of those who go in a meeting and all I go in is with my smartphone, and that's my life. Like I do everything on that phone. I don't even know when the last time, except from now, that I'll use a laptop. Something of that nature. But I'm always misperceiving meetings because I'm on my phone. They think I'm on my phone, but I got like 10 note-taking apps, on my phone. So everything I do is electronically. But what I have to be mindful for, everybody's not technologically savvy as I am. So things that I may push out in a format that they may not even have an app on their phone that coincides with that. So those have been like aha moments. Like, okay, you didn't get it, or you didn't get that message I sent to you. No, how did you send it to me? And we stand there and look and like, oh, that's a breakdown. You don't have that app, or you don't have that update. And so it's the little simple things like that, really knowing how that person operates, and then that way that, to avoid those breakdowns, make sure that something small doesn't become something big because it's just a simple fix. knowing that person and talking routine to that individual.
Good stuff. To the fam out there, do me a favor, hit that share button. If you, those of you who are still on Facebook and maybe not, and you came on late, we are transitioning over to YouTube, and I want you to go over there and hit the subscribe button while you're there, so that you become part of that 22,000 subscribers. But also hit the notification bell so that you know when we're live every Saturday morning, 10:55 Eastern time. So make sure that you do that. But in the meantime, while you're on Facebook, hit that share button. But you can also share the YouTube channel off of my page, right? So either way, Twitter, they're not even up to date. So that's one of the issues that I'm having right now technologically, or social media wise. But other than that, I want to go back to Dr. Opoku, and I want to invert the question from the vantage point of the AP. Now, there's a breakdown in communication. So the principal and the AP, they're really not talking. What is an AP to do relative to the communication? Not so much start looking at that exit plan, but what is it that what can I do to forge communication with my superior?
That's a good question, and that could be a really difficult place for the AP to be. I think one of the things that's important is to have a good network or system around you of people where you can get advice from, and see how they've dealt with that situation before. One of the things that I learned as a principal and as an AP is that I would be going through different things and I wouldn't necessarily share it with anybody else. And then I would make a mistake in the way that I approached it. So once I learned to have like a good team of other administrators around me that had to deal with the same things that I was dealing with, our jobs are very unique. It made my situation a little bit easier. So the first thing that I would suggest to any AP is to make sure that you have other people around you who understand your role, who understand your job, and can provide you with advice on how to deal with a particular situation. In reference to attempting to, again, talk directly with that principal, ask for time for a meeting. I just wanted to sit and talk to you about a few things. And you don't want to attack. You don't want to attack, just like you do want to. It seems like it's storming over there in Florida.
Yeah. Where's that? Which one of y'all? That's whole bet. That's you. Do me a favor, mute until you go.
But ask them to sit down and can we have some time to talk about a couple of things, not a long list or litany of items, but let's sit down and have a conversation. Request that time. Most principals are going to give you that time. Is it always going to come out the way that you want? No, I'm not going to sit here and provide you with this fairy tale fantasy that everything's always going to turn out the way that you want. Their conversation is going to turn out the way that you want. But you want to get into the habit of having those conversations when things are difficult. Sit down and request that time with the principal so that you can have a discussion about what your concerns may be about what you're seeing, or about what you may agree or disagree with. And I would sit down and I would plan. Don't go into the conversation unprepared. Plan it out. Just like I'm taking notes on different things here, or I take notes throughout the day when I'm at work. Sit down and plan the conversation. Visualize the type of conversation that you want to have with the VP, with your principal rather. Think about how you want it to go. Think about the possibilities or the directions that conversation can go in, and how you may need to respectfully address the responses that you may receive. But again, the two things that I would suggest is to build that network of people that are around you that can provide you with support in order to deal with challenging situations. And also just go ahead and request the time. That's why we're here to work, to have a conversation. And again, we don't have to go to that exit plan. Sometimes we just need to, if we want the marriage to work, we have to work on it. So again, going right back to that marriage connection that we made. If you want the marriage to work, there are things that you need to do, and communication is part of it, even during difficult times.
And before I go to Dr. Jeffries on the same question, I just want to remind somebody out there in the fam, you know if you're in this situation, but that when that relationship devolves into we're not even talking to each other. Right. I mean, that it's real in places. It's really real in places. We're not even talking to each other. We're just here we're both being paid to be on this job, but as far as any relationship, any rapport, any collaboration, any cooperation, it doesn't exist. I live in this space, as one that works with principals and APs across the country. So I get to hear things, I get to see things. It doesn't work. And who loses? Everybody, the whole school. Jump on in here, Dr. Jeffries.
Sure. I first want to add value to the significance of what was just mentioned before me. And I definitely think that having that courageous conversation is so very important. My perspective of leadership, I tend to lead from a restorative practice lens. And so having restorative circles, whether it's a healing circle, whether it's a courageous conversation circle, is very important. But I would also have the AP to lend their support of the practices and systems that are already in place. So if there's a assistant superintendent that are over the principals and assistant principals, inviting them into the conversation where the conversation is viewed from a lens of being collaborative versus punitive is very important. But I want to caution on the side, it is dangerous to have two leaders or principals and assistant principals in a building that are not in agreement, because it is a safety concern. If there's a crisis or if there's an emergency and you have leaders that aren't speaking and a spirit of strife has come in, that's a liability. And as a principal, you don't want that with an AP. You want to protect the climate and culture at all costs. So I come in agreement that there needs to be a courageous conversation. And again, if there's nothing that comes out of that courageous conversation, then we need to be paying attention. Do we have the right leadership team in place?
I love it. Hovek.
Yes, again, I apologize for that interruption there with Mother Nature, but I wholeheartedly agree with that. I personally say that if there's a bad mixture there, the entire school community is in jeopardy. So it's very vital and important. It really is a crisis if you have an AP and a principal that are not on one accord, that's not communicating at all. So that in itself jeopardizes the school community and school operations as a whole. That is a very political and touchy subject. You have to be very careful about how you approach that from the AP standpoint. I have always chose to take the higher road by simply humbling myself and convicting myself first, doing some real deep diving and self-evaluation to say, hey, look, what is it that I may be doing to provoke this lack of communication? And then I jot that down if need be. And that's how I'm going to go into the conversation when I'm talking to that principal. I request that important meeting. Now, even beyond that, if that's not working, then of course you have to understand the chain of commands. And then it does warrant that you request a higher authority to kind of intervene on that. And that leads back to just saying, hey, look, maybe it's not the right fit for me in that essence. And so I'm not the one to judge whether it's the right fit or the right assignment for the principal, but for my professional growth, it is a necessity for me to be able to assess the situation and decide whether or not this is beneficial to my personal and professional growth. So first step is to always humble yourself, to be truthful with yourself, and to approach the situation from an humble standpoint. And if that is ineffective, then of course, then there are other chains of command that you can ask humbly to intervene. And it's very vital, because at that point, your school community and school operations is at stake.
Principal Kafele, could I also mention too,
absolutely,
that sometimes there could be some cultural relevant lenses that are different from the AP versus the principal. And so being able to be open and honest with higher ups, that there needs to be professional learning put in place to address some of those systemic biases, are crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. That it certainly weighs in. Because you got people coming from different worlds, and now we're in this space together, and may not have that understanding. So yeah, definitely. I want to look at the before we get on out of here. I want to look at the instructional coach, and I want to start off. I said this maybe a week or two ago on this platform, and I just want to repeat myself that when I'm in rooms with instructional coaches, in terms of me being a presenter, breakout session, a school district, whatever, there's some concerns that they express, and what I found is that they express a lot of the same concerns no matter where I am. So I started making mental notes, and then I started jotting down on planes, and I turned it into a part of presentations I do with instructional coaches or with administrators about the instructional coaches. So let me read these bullet points real quick, and then I want to start with Hovette, and I want to ask a question. Here's what I hear: some of the teachers don't respect us in this capacity because they see us as peers. We lack real authority because we are not administrators. Some of the teachers don't feel we're needed. Some of the teachers don't want to be bothered with us. Some of the teachers feel that we don't have anything substantive to offer. Some of the teachers feel that our presence in their classrooms is an intrusion or distraction. Some of the teachers feel that meeting with us is a waste of their time. Some of the teachers feel that since administration isn't in their classrooms, that we shouldn't be in them either. Some of the teachers can be disrespectful. Some of the teachers feel that they are beyond learning from us. It can be, and then last two, it can be challenging to forge relationships with some of the teachers because they don't trust us or the process. And some of the teachers feel that we are reporting to administration on their performance in the classroom, almost in an evaluative sense. So this is, I hear this all the time, maybe not the whole list, but different places I hear a whole lot of overlap, whole lot of variation as to some of the concerns of instructional coaches. And of course, when there's a union involved in a unionized district and they're in the same bargaining unit, then that also becomes an issue. So starting with Hovette, what measures, Hovette, might you take to help instructional coaches to overcome some of these concerns? I don't know if he's frozen. Yeah, he's frozen.
I think can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, but yeah, I hear you, but your video was frozen. It's good now. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. One of the things you had sent us, you told us to send 4 talking points, and as
that was one of yours. Yeah.
Yeah, when you read that, I immediately started thinking back to that response. And one thing from the principal standpoint, how to support those instructional coaches, and it's easy to make that mistake. And I can say I'm one of those who may have made that mistake at one point in time. Was that you create an admin team, and on your admin team, you're trying to think of that dream team. You want the best players on your team, and you want those who know the instructional data and things of that nature, the student data. So you make sometimes that mistake of recruiting your math coach or your reading coach or just these various coaches that deals directly with in-classroom instruction. But you fail to, from the principal standpoint, convey their roles to the actual teachers. And so I think where the breakdown comes in is that there's no precise and clear understanding or communication to that element, to that teacher group, what that role is of the instructional coach and the seriousness of that role. And so I think the main thing is first to kind of convey what the roles are, to spell it out, whether it be in a faculty meeting, whether it be in a data meeting, a POC, whatever the case may be. It has to be non-negotiables attached to that and left there. It can't be a thing to where they're becoming so united with you to where now they're viewed as someone who is running back to the administration and telling the administration everything. Because 9 times out of 10, that's far from the case. But if they're known to be listed as an admin team member, that's exactly how they're going to perceive it. And so those guards are going to go up when it comes to the teacher and their classroom environments. And we have to know that teachers are innately protective of their classroom environments. They think that their classroom environment belongs strictly to them and them only, even when it comes to administrators having to go in there to evaluate. And so you have to create an atmosphere to where this is a non-negotiable, that these things got to occur, and these are the things that we're going to be looking for when those instructional coaches coincide and collaborate with you. This is a collaboration, and it's not one of those things that they're trying to intrude upon your learning environment, because at the beginning and end of the day, everybody have one goal, and that's to make sure that we're growing our scholars, and those instructional coaches are in place to ensure that there's an element of accountability there, not to evaluate you, but to go in and exert their expertise to ensure that they can support you. And so I think those parameters have to be laid out in the beginning and have to be very clear in that. We have to avoid as principals and the measures of putting them in positions to where they're misperceived as administrators or evaluators instead of colleagues and support systems.
Oh, thorough. That's great stuff. Dr. Poku, same question.
So in reference to my instructional coaches, we have department chairs. So it's a little, it depends on where you are. It's a little bit different whether they have administrative capacity or not. But in my particular situation, I tend to utilize my instructional coaches in a way that allows us to work collaboratively on goals. One of the other things that I do with them is I outwardly support them. So if they've looked at the data, if we've looked at the data together, if we work together over the summer to sit down and have our meetings and set goals, I am outwardly supporting the work they are doing in order to set those goals. I'm supporting it if I'm in a faculty meeting and they're presenting something. If I have a comment, I'm going to say something that, again, affirms the work that they are doing and why it's important and how we as a school can work together to make sure that they reach the goal that they would like to meet. Also, I sit in on their trainings so that teachers know it's valuable. So when we have PD days, I'm not in my office. I'm not doing something else. I'm going to the trainings that they're having. I need to know exactly what they're teaching the teachers so that I can support what the instructional coaches are sharing with the instructional leaders that work in our classrooms every day. So I sit in on their trainings. I ask questions. I participate in the activities that they have going on so that we're all working together. We're all having the same types of conversations. And so that when I do go into the classrooms, I am, again, on board with whatever that instructional coach has already shared or stated. I also encourage them to stay the course. A lot of the things, and when you were reading through that list, Principal Kafele, I didn't want to laugh out loud. I almost did. The things that you mentioned are things that I literally heard just a few months ago. Why are you coming into my classroom? I'm doing fine. I'm doing well, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
They have to stay the course. And I have to, again, support them to make sure that they stay the course and encourage them in the work that they're doing. Ask them questions about the work, do my own research about the work that they're doing so that I can be more informed, so I can be well informed. So again, a lot of the things that you said are definitely things that I hear throughout the year. But again, I have to encourage my DCs to stay. The ones that I have left, I unfortunately lost another one this year due to another round of significant budget cuts. You know how it goes in New Jersey. But again, just supporting the work that they're doing and being an active and engaged participant in reaching the goals that they've set out for our school.
Wow, that's solid as well. Dr. Jeffries, bring us home.
Sure. Well, my colleagues have pretty much summed it up. The only thing that I would add to that is the instructional coaches have to be a part of the leadership team. Mm-hmm. When we look at the overarching goals of academic achievement, everybody owns that. Everybody owns that. The ICs are there to push into those classrooms and to hone in on it in more specific avenues as dictated by the data. in conjunction with the building principal. So my practice, you're going to see the IC. You're also going to see Dr. Gina Jeffries doing those walkthroughs and then following up with you. What we've done in St. Louis is embedded instructional coaches to meet with the different content areas and with the different grade levels on a weekly basis during a common planning period, because it's really good for us as principals to say, here's what we need done. But if we don't embed the time for teachers and coaches and other team members to actually come together in professional learning communities and dissect what it is that we see, where are we at, where are we going, and how are we going to get there, it defeats the whole purpose of student achievement.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I'm actually I'm ready to transition to our final BAM, as I call them, BAM impact questions. But I got two questions tugging at me. I won't go with all three of you. Whoever wants to jump in, if it's all three of you, then let's do that. First one, let me go back to the AP, and then I'm gonna wrap it up with the instructional coach. AP. We've touched on this, but it's come up in your responses to various questions, but it hasn't been a question. So let me just throw this at you. I'm an AP in a school somewhere, and I am completely frustrated. I'm frustrated. I'm discouraged. I'm angry because I thought that I was going to come into this position, coming out of the classroom, being highly successful as a teacher. This is some fictitious AP, that I was going to come in here and I was going to take part in real leadership. And I was going to be exposed to the many facets of leadership, not necessarily the first week of school, maybe not even the first month, but gradually over time, I was going to be exposed to the facets, the many facets of school leadership. But here I am, I don't know anything. And I'm frustrated, I'm discouraged, I'm angry. And quite frankly, I think I'd rather just go back to my classroom and teach. I share that with you because I know, definitively might be a strong word, but having done this for 221 consecutive Saturdays, I have a sense of the folks who are on here, the ones who write in the comment. So I'm going to say confidently instead of definitively that person is on here right now listening. And if they're not on here listening right now and watching, they'll see the video later during the week. What are your words to that person? Anybody?
I would say you have to empower yourself. Sometimes we look extrinsically for others to validate and empower us. And I know this isn't very sexy, but sometimes you have to start at the bottom in order to build yourself up. When I started as an AP, the only thing I dealt with was discipline, discipline, discipline. It taught me that relationships with teachers, relationships with parents, and stakeholders are imperative. It taught me that my role as an assistant principal with setting the climate and culture within re-examining how we dealt with discipline and moving to restorative practices was crucial. So you gotta learn before you earn, and be patient in the waiting. Be patient in the waiting, because you want those lessons at the bottom so that when you continue to elevate and move your way up, you have those lessons that are underneath you. And again, if you don't feel like it's been 5 years and I'm still not moving, then hey, as Principal Dixon said, you may have to look at that exit strategy, but you're going to leave with knowing, according to Principal Dixon, what to do and what not to do. So get those lessons and those blessings at the same time.
Love it. Anybody else want to jump in?
I'll say just knowing how easy it is to get there, As I said at the beginning, that this is a field that is called for labor. It is not. It's a lonely position, a lonely place to be if you're not surrounding yourself with people who can serve to be beneficial to you and supportive when it comes to that. So you have to get out and be proactive in seeking people who have had that expertise. Most people are on their way out. When I say on their way out in administration, they've done it so many years to where they're just hanging around for the last few years. But in that route out, what I always find with those principals who are almost in retirement mode or transitioning to retirement, they're looking to mentor. They're looking for individuals that they can put under their wing and mentor. So you have to be kind of proactive in finding those individuals who don't mind sharing that free knowledge. I remember when I went on a boatload of AP interviews and never could land anything, and I just knew I just had it all figured out. I don't think it was an interview question that could have been asked to me, but I got so frustrated because went on so many interviews. But I went and found this guy who had retired, and I'll never forget it. He would have me walk with him in the evening times on his evening walks, and he was a award-winning administrator during his tenure, but he would just be so serene and so calm and giving me. First, he would critique me. He would tell me what my areas of focus need to be were, and then of course he would give me the nuggets and how to fix it. And so I never forget a time where he said to me, he said, "Well, Mash, as you went on these many interviews, do you think there's something that it possibly that you could be doing wrong that may be causing you not to get that phone call?" And so, and I said, well, I heard a couple of times that someone said that maybe I came across as arrogant, in my answering of the questions. He said, well, how many times have you heard that? And I said, well, I've heard that probably about 3 times out of probably 100 interviews almost. He said, well, yeah, I know that's a healthy balance. You still got a good percentage of where you didn't hear it, but you need to take that 3 times you heard it and try to make some adjustments. And I promise you, the next time I went into an interview, I dumbed it down, not dumb it down, but I kind of calmed it down, toned it down a little bit,
Yeah.
and walked right into an AP position. And so it's just a matter of just self-reflecting, finding someone who's going to tell you the truth, and then of course taking that advice and executing and implementing it in your daily.
Weigh in only if you want to, Dr. Opoku.
No, just finding the opportunity in the situation that you're in. So again, sometimes you're giving a little, and if you're able to care for and nurture the little that you have, you'll be given a lot. So sometimes you have to really go back and to look at what you have and find the opportunity in that. I don't want to get too churchy or anything like that. But again, sometimes you have to find the opportunity in where you are. And I really like what was just stated in reference to being open to critique. Sometimes we're not as open to critique as we need to be. And that's beautiful that you were able to be open to that kind of critique, because that kind of critique most likely helped you to grow. Even if it wasn't in that particular way, it probably helped you to grow and expand in a different way.
That's right. Good stuff. I got one more for y'all. This is going back to the instructional coach, and then we do the BAM impact questions are real quick. So let me ask you this question, and this is for anybody. I'm an instructional coach. I'm a teacher, and the instructional coach is trying to establish a relationship with me, is trying to come in and give me advice. But you know something? I don't trust this process. I see this instructional coach as a quasi administrator. And I feel like this is just another set of eyes on me and what I'm doing. I don't feel like I need this person, but it's the process that bugs me. I just don't feel that this has my best interest at heart. So I'm not asking the question so much what you do with the instructional coach, although that's a conversation relative to training, because that person feels that way probably in part because of that dynamic. But my question to you is, I'm gonna let you run with it wherever you feel it needs to be said. What do you do? And when I say it, let me be clear, because because it's the final one. I just want to make sure I'm clear. I believe that in order for any type of instructional leadership to work, whether that be principal, teacher, AP teacher, instructional coach, teacher, teacher leader, teacher, whomever it is, I believe with every fiber of my being that there must be a culture of instructional leadership in place in that building. And if there's no culture of instructional leadership, then me as an individual is going to struggle to be this thing that the macro, the culture, does not allow to happen. Right. So I'm this micro trying to be something within this macro, but this macro is too big to allow me to be successful as this micro. So my question, I guess I'm not really, as I unfolded it in my head, because it's not in my notes, I guess I'm not necessarily asking you to speak to the teacher. I think I'm more so asking you to speak to how we create this culture. Yeah, I am asking you that. How we create this culture of instructional leadership so that whomever I am, principal, AP, instructional coach, teacher, leader, whatever, we can make this thing happen. That's a big question to answer in the presentation, man. That's the session, but let's go with it. Anybody, jump in here.
I would say like anything else, and just looking back at how our dynamics are at our schoolhouse, is that, and it's been that way for a few years now, but I'm real big on interest inventories, like immediately find out what everybody likes, passing out those forms or one pages where they can kind of say what their hobbies are, what their favorite foods are, their favorite snacks, and things of that nature, and kind of putting those in a folder. So when you're trying to win those individuals over, those instructional coaches are trying to kind of break down those barriers. They have that, and I'll give you an example. One particular instructional coach, I remember going into the class and into her room, work area, and I opened up her closet, and she had all of these various snacks and different trinkets and little things, incentives that I thought maybe like, man, what are we doing here? They've got a miniature Sam's Warehouse here, and so she simply said that this teacher likes this teacher likes that, and so she was able to point out every single thing that the teachers that she worked with in her grade level range liked. So when they come in and she invite them in to work with them, she ensured that that little basket on the middle of that table that they're working has a variety of things that they like. So she spends about 5 minutes watching them gloat in the fact that, oh, look, you have this. And so it sets the tone to let them know that, hey, look, I thought enough of you to go to the store and buy this out of my own pocket. And now we can open up that element of communication and trust. That I'm really here to support you rather than to critique you, to a sense to where it's from an administrative lens. And so I think that's one of the key things, is finding out what really makes those teachers take down those guards and winning them over to a system where you can kind of instill that this is a collaboration and a support system rather than something that's punitive.
Love it. Anybody else want to jump in? Don't feel compelled, only if you want to.
I was just going to add that setting the culture and the stage and embedding it into the overall student achievement goals is important, beginning with day one. So in our climate and culture, explaining that the coaches are coming to coach and observe, whereas the principal is coming to coach, observe, but also to evaluate for accountability purposes, is crucial. And something that I feel is extremely important is making those data-driven decisions. A teacher may tell us, hey, why is this IC coming in my classroom? Why does the principal keep coming? But the student data in your classroom is not positive student achievement data or climate and culture data, meaning you're struggling with the achievement and you're struggling with discipline, means you need it. So you may be telling us that you don't need it, but your data is clearly showing us that you do need it. So being able to, for accountability purposes, have that data piece that is right there ensuring that we are equipping our new teachers is very important. They need to understand it is the culture of our climate in our building that instructional coaches, principals, and assistant principals are in your classroom for support. Principal Kafele, I walk every single classroom every single day. It is just my practice as being a climate and culture setting. That sets the stage that I'm not here to be punitive. You should get concerned if you don't see me. You seeing me should be the norm. It also lets scholars know, hey, if I have a need or if I need support with something, Dr. J is going to be visiting this classroom. So embedding it into the culture and viewing it from that data lens is crucial.
And just adding to that, one of the things that I like to do with my teachers who are struggling with receiving information from an instructional coach or a professional developer is I ask them why. Why do you feel this way? Why? What's the challenge here? What's the struggle? What's the block? So I can sit down and really have a conversation with them about that. A lot of times, especially for veteran teachers who have been around for a long time, it's like, one thing comes and the next thing comes and they're just tired of the wheel, the circle, and so I try to make sure they understand how this connects back to our goals, how this connects back to what our vision and mission is as a school. So again, just going back and asking them the why. One of the other things that I like to do is make sure there are no major surprises. So when we developed the new walkthrough tool that we use for each of the content areas in the building, the teachers were fully aware of everything that was on it. I went over it with them. I allowed them to ask me any questions. I told them exactly how it would be used, who would be using it, when they would be using it, all of that. So there were no surprises for them. So there was a significant push. There was no pushback. I'm not even going to say significant because a lot of times when you start walkthroughs and informal observations of teacher practice, there's some pushback around that, especially if you have a strong union. But there was no pushback. And I think part of that was because it was not a surprise to them. I built their trust. I asked them, I also let them know, do you have any suggestions for this? How can we adjust this or how can we change this? And I made sure everything on that document was related to work that we were already doing. So again, just making sure there were no surprises for them, but really asking the why of teachers who are having some difficulty or who are challenged by new ideas or professional development or growth, and just making sure I'm being transparent in what we're doing in our school.
Powerful. All three of you with those two impromptu questions. Powerful stuff. Let's go to these BAM impact questions. These are quick. These are one word answers or one sentence max. If you find yourself inserting a comma, it's too long, and I'm gonna say right. So they're quick. Rapid fire. We be done in a couple seconds. Here we go. I got 21. I go 7, 7, and 7. And the last one, each of you, I give you each the last question. Here we go. Dr. Opoku, the first 7 is education on the right path for underserved children as it currently exists.
No.
Can true equity occur in America's schools for Black, Brown, and other served students as it currently exists?
Not as it currently exists.
Does Dr. Janelle Opoku's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Absolutely.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
That's a good question. Possibly. I love what I do, but possibly different.
Here we go. Why do you continue to do this work?
Oh, gosh. Because when a student comes to me and they say, thank you, and I appreciate you, and you see the outward change that they made based upon that, it changes my life and it encourages me to go further.
What fires you up particularly within the work that you do?
Just again, when students are able to come back and you see that change in them and you see the growth that they have. When I see that, I'm ready to go towards the next school year.
Love it. And lastly, what do you absolutely love? And it might be the same response. What do you absolutely love about this work?
I love that I'm able to have fun when I want to.
Good stuff. Hovette, what do you dislike about the work you do?
Dislike is that there's not enough time to execute everything that I have roaming in my thought process.
What has been your greatest victory in this work thus far?
Just moving the academic needle.
What was your greatest mistake in this work?
Assuming everyone has the same passion.
What has been your greatest challenge in this work?
Is getting it all done with a short period of time.
Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
Yes.
Are you proud of your first year as a principal?
Yes.
Who inspires you in your work?
Man, I'm gonna have to say God.
There you go. Dr. Jeffries, what are you reading right now? It could be a book, but it could be an article, a tweet, a blog, anything. Unmute yourself.
Permission to Feel by Dr. Mark Brackett.
What book do you recommend for our viewers this afternoon?
I'm glad you asked. Self-Care for the Black Women.
Woo! Put that on the screen. Self-Care for the Black Woman. For Black women. There you go. There you go. Good stuff. What do you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished as of yet?
I want to travel to Africa and I want to take some scholars with me.
Are you satisfied with where you are professionally?
No, every day I want to grow more.
What could you say to a viewer out there who continues to face closed doors?
The right door will open for you when it is your time and your turn.
What could you say to a viewer out there who's lost their fire?
Get a squad to set you back on fire.
If Dr. Gina Jeffries was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Powerful, unapologetically passionate.
If Dr. Janelle Opoku was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Always ready.
And if Principal Hovette Lee Dixon Jr. was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Advocate.
Advocate. Man, let me tell y'all, I appreciate you. This was fire. This was fire. This was great information. And I look forward to so many more seeing the video. But this was great information. I got to thank you all publicly. But first, let me go to the fam. Fam, those of you who are veterans here, you know how we applaud the our guests with the emojis, as you've already started. So just give us whatever your favorite emojis are, and bring them through. Let us see them. And those of you who are not fam, this is your first time. Just give us your favorite emoji. If this session today was resonating, informative, empowering, inspiring, if it was useful, if you can take it back to your school and enhance your practice, then show my guests some love, right? And let me get mine. I use this emoji, my big baseball bat here. And although I'm wearing the St. Louis Stars Negro League, I'm always representing Josh Gibson of the Homestead Grays and the Pittsburgh Crawfords, who now the Major League accepted as the #1 batter in terms of batting average in baseball, period. Major League Baseball and Negro Leagues. Now that the data is combined, the leading hitter in baseball, Josh Gibson. So I'm always representing him with his 800 plus home runs, highest batting average, even over Ty Cobb. Justice prevailed as it relates to him coming into the majors. So that's my emoji. You hit grand slams, you hit them out the park every time you went to bat. So that was good stuff. Folks probably want to holler at you. You know, I know y'all got busy schedules, but they may want to follow you on social media, that type of thing. So you don't have to put your email address out there unless you want to. But social media, how do they connect with you? Let me start with Dr. Opoku.
I'm on Instagram, Principal Opoku. So you can definitely follow me there. I don't post a lot, but when I do post, I try to make sure that it's really about what I'm doing in the work. And the next conference that I will be attending is the National Alliance of Black School Educators conference from November 20th to the 24th in Atlanta, Georgia. So I look forward to just meeting new people. I met a lot of new people when I was there last year. And again, it helped to energize me and bring back some great ideas for the next school year. So my hope is that I'll be able to see some of you, the panelists, as well as some of the guests as well at that conference in November.
And I will definitely see you there as a presenter. I've been missing it lately because my wife's birthday is always the same week, but this time around it is not. We're typically on a cruise, so I will be at NAPSI. I've been a member since the 90s, so I will be there as a presenter. Are you presenting or are you going as an attendee?
I'm going as an attendee.
Have you ever sent in a proposal?
I haven't. I think I need to build up my confidence a little bit more in that area. But it is something I'm interested in, but I'm not presenting.
I'm going to say it live in front of people. You're ready. Whatever that confidence thing is, do me a favor. Wherever your closest garbage can is to where you're sitting right now, just take the lack of confidence and just toss it in there and let it stay there, because you ain't ready now. You've been ready.
Thank you.
All right. So next year, and I will send you some info to remind you. Next year, send the proposal in so that the people can be blessed by what you have to offer. Enough said. Dr. Jeffries, how do they reach you?
Yes, sir. You can reach me on 2 social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook. I also do some consulting. I'd love to come and fire up your teachers, administrators, and other stakeholders. Thank you, Principal Kafele, for the platform.
Oh, I appreciate you. And I know you out there doing some speaking. And before Hovette gives you his information, I want to say this to you. For those of you that didn't see the beginning, what weren't with us from the beginning of this broadcast, go back and watch it all and see Hovette talked about he was an alternative school student back in high school. What you wouldn't know from this platform, because it's all spoken, Hovette is not only a writer, he's a gifted writer, right? He's one of those folks that just has a way with words, who can articulate it in a way that paints these big word pictures, and you kind of feel, not only read but feel what he's saying. And right now he blesses us with it on Facebook, but we're waiting for him to take it beyond Facebook into he dropped the face and just the book, right? So that's coming at some point, but we're talking about a very gifted writer, right? So I just want you all to know that, because it's not going to come across on this platform. Go ahead, Hovette. How do they reach you?
Yes, sir. On both of those platforms, Facebook, of course, Hovette Dixon, and Instagram as well, Hovette Dixon. And I just want to say thank you, man. I know you have a heavy following, and you hear it all the time, and sometimes it seems to be cliche, but I could go all the way back to the first time I met you down in Mobile, Alabama. Just happened to be breezing by, getting up early in the morning, kind of checking out the terrain, and it was super early in that morning. Was not expecting for anybody to be in a room for us presenters, but you were there super early setting up. And I remember doubling back and coming back in just to shake your hand, not knowing who you were. And you engaged me, almost took me through a little hazing session and about me being an educator and a new administrator.
Like I just did yeah. Dr. Poku.
Right. So this has been going on for quite some time, man. But I'd be remiss if I didn't. I'm a Southern guy, so I came on and I started off without paying homage to your queen, and that's Kimberly Kafele. I just want to say greetings to you as well, and I'd be remiss if I didn't also give a shout out to my wife, who's here somewhere in the audience, I'm sure, watching with a group of friends. So I just want to say thank you all for allowing me the platform to share what I believe in, and I do appreciate the compliments in regards to my writing. That is a passion of mine, and I can tell you right, nobody applies the pressure more than Principal Kafele when it comes to me having to really bring those thoughts into fruition. And so it's just a short distance away. It's moments like this here that continues to press me and get me started. Let me give you a thing that really got me. And I want to say to my colleagues, Dr. Jeffrey and Dr. Poku, when I first received the announcement about this particular session, I too am one of those individuals that Principal Kafele talked about. I believe in moving in silence. I don't say much about what I'm doing, but I'm just a year away from, having that title as well. And it's been sitting dormant for a couple of years. And so what really got me was when he sent out that somebody screenshot it and sent it to me, and I saw Dr. Jeffries and Dr. Poku, and then I saw Hovette Dixon. So that was a call. That was it. That was an element of motivation. I'm like, hey, man, it was just a light bulb moment. So I want to say thank you, ladies. I know that doesn't come easy. So your journeys of becoming doctors, I want to just salute you on that. And don't allow anybody to undermine those titles, because they are earned. Nobody gave them to you. They are earned. And so I am one that can say, hey, it's not easy. And so I thank you for the element of motivation. And like, again, Principal Kafele, thank you for being a friend.
I appreciate
the opportunity.
That piece you just said was powerful. That was powerful. Hey, let me close us out. Yo, do me a favor, y'all three, stay on even when I go off, so I can just holler at you before you leave for the day. To the fam out there, appreciate you being here. I'm going through a little growing pains with the transition to full-time YouTube, but we're gonna get back to where I'm accustomed to being. I gotta work a little harder. So, but thank you for being here for week number 221. Next week is week number 222, and I got this guest. I'm going solo with a young man by the name of Carlos Moreno from New York, and I don't have his book in front of me, so I forget the exact title, so I don't want to do injustice, but he'll be with me, and we're gonna have a great conversation on leadership. Next Saturday, 10 o'clock, Sean Hurt, Facebook Live, Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston, Dr. Tammy Taylor. Facebook Live, they're all three at the Black Educators Rock Conference, where I should be. And then me, YouTube at 10:55. YouTube, all them F's I'm looking at right now on the screen for Facebook. Hey, y'all, switch over, please, to YouTube, right? Because next week will be the last week I'm on YouTube. Twitter, I'm already off of Twitter because Twitter wants us to pay to stream live on there, and I ain't paying nothing to stream live. I'm not doing it. It's out of the question. Right, so Twitter, it was nice. It was real, right? I'll still be on Twitter, tweeting or X, right? But I'm not streaming there. All right. Anyway, and then Sunday night, the PDP podcast with Josh Tovar, Sundays at 5 o'clock Eastern, right on his channel, Josh Tovar, Facebook. My books, man, I ain't gonna waste no time showing you. My books are on Amazon and ascd.org, but go to Amazon, put my name in, Baruti Kafele, Baruti, and you'll see them. But the main ones, the Assistant Principal 50, the Assistant Principal Identity, and the Aspiring Principal 50. I might add the Principal 50. I might add Is My School a Better School Because I Lead It? That as well. And then the new joint, What is My Value to the Teachers that I Supervise Instructionally, will be out in December. Although my publisher convinced me to tweak the title. What is My Value Instructionally to the Teachers I Supervise? Same concept. They wanted me to switch some words around. They said, come on, Kafele, you married to that, but we want to make it a little better. So I acquiesced, right? So what is my value instructionally to the teachers that I supervise? No, they said, take that out, Kafele. What is my value to the teachers I supervise instructionally? Coming in December, pre-order in October. All right. Subscribe to the AP New Principals Academy YouTube channel. Subscribe. Like and follow the AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page. And then visit principalkafele.com for all my resources. I got all that free stuff on there. I ain't trying to get you to come on there for you to buy nothing. I got all that free stuff on there. Just go to the site and check it out. And then make sure you're eating right, folks. Get that exercise in. I'm getting ready to go out here right now and do about 3 miles right now. Right? As soon as I do a little something with the social media, then I'm going right outside and get them 3 miles in. And then me and the queen gonna go into town somewhere. I don't know where we going, but we gonna find somewhere. And then make sure that you're taking care of yourself with all these viruses out here, man. It's sick out here, y'all. It's sick, right? I might have to start rocking that mask on the plane again, man, because it's a lot going on out here. You know that already. But outside of that, y'all, I appreciate you being here. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Flip it. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Bam! I'll see y'all next Saturday, man. Same time, same Kafele time, same Kafele channel. YouTube. I got to say it one more time. YouTube. One more time. YouTube. Not Facebook, not Twitter. YouTube.